Our presenters are Mack Lessig and Amy Boohaker. Mack is the Master Gardener Volunteer Coordinator in Manatee County. Before that, he coordinated the community gardens there in Manatee, and it was a big success. And so he's moved on to be the Master Gardener Coordinator. We're thrilled to have him. And Amy Boohaker is a Manatee County Master Gardener, and she's been doing that since 2017. She has a passion for native plants and for native plant demonstration. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to invite our Manatee colleagues to take it away.
All right, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, let me get this set up. All right, and what about this? Everybody seeing that all right? Perfect, perfect. All right, so welcome everybody. Like Miss Wendy said, my name is Mack Lessig, and I'm the residential horticulture agent in Manatee County. Just a little more info on me. Like she mentioned, I was the Community Gardens program assistant for a long time here in Manatee County and helped develop what that program looks like. But also, I was a master gardener for 10 years prior to my becoming an agent. And so I've kind of fulfilled a lot of roles in this. And when asked to present on this topic, I was really excited about it because we have all contributed to our demonstration garden here in Manatee County. And I want to take this opportunity in this not only to talk about what demonstration gardens can be and what they are, but also highlight some of the good work that's happening in a specific garden that we refer to as the sundial. All right, let's see. Will it progress? All right, there's always that. Okay, so for those of you who don't know where Manatee County is, I know Florida is real big. We're this tiny little county right here, and the way that I describe that to people is we're sandwiched between Tampa and Sarasota. So if you can remember where Tampa is and you know where Sarasota is, we're that little tiny county that's right in between, and our main city is Bradenton. So if anyone's ever been to Anna Maria Island or any of the Gulf beaches, Bradenton is kind of your avenue that way. Currently, though, we're nearing 500,000 residents, and that's been a really huge influx in the last 10, 15 years from a population that was primarily rural to an incoming and increasingly suburban and urban populations. And in fact, we're one of the most rapidly growing areas in the state, which translates partly into the importance of what a demonstration garden can help us achieve. So, what are demonstration gardens? I mean, they can be many things, right? Yes, they're a physical garden. Yes, they're a place where people can work in and master gardeners can volunteer in. But the way that I like to describe them is they are tangible reflections of your work and expertise, not only of the agents and the program staff who support the master gardener volunteers, but also master gardener volunteers themselves. This is a physical way, a tangible way people can interact with your expertise. These gardens can also provide models for visitors to adopt. So not only are they this reflection of your skill, but the hope is that visitors coming to this garden see what you've done, learn something from that, and adopt it in their own landscapes. That's a really powerful thing. And if you've not considered that for demonstration gardens, that's something I'd like you to think about. Also, they can engage and educate visitors on several topics. So, depending on how your gardens are set up, they can have outdoor classrooms. So ours has an outdoor classroom or outdoor teaching space. They can have several themes or different areas. They can serve as social spaces, not only for volunteers, but for people to come in and attend events. Recently, last week, 2 weeks ago, Amy, we had the open garden event.
Week ago.
Yeah, we had an open garden event where folks came in and learned exactly what demonstration gardens are. They got toured around by master gardener volunteers, and it was a nice way for people to interact with Extension. So our garden specifically, we called or named the Barbara Davis Educational Gardens, and that's in memory of one of our champion master gardeners who is no longer with us, but she was instrumental in the creation of the demonstration garden here in Manatee County. This garden is broken into several sections, and I've probably missed one, but these are the ones that jumped out to me when I was creating these themes. So we have a wetlands demonstration garden, Okay, that is kind of a depression that's lined. It's got some really cool wetlands plants in it, and it's fed by a cistern. We have a shade garden. So that's an area where we can showcase our skill for landscapes or homes or lanais where people don't have access to a lot of sun, but they still want some color. That's an area for us to showcase those skills. We have a children's garden where we offer lots of in-person classes and workshops with kids. They can interact with vegetables, herbs. There's a sensory component to that garden as well, so they can touch rosemary. There's different herbs that they can smell. So it's a nice way to engage youth within a demonstration garden. Of course, we have vegetables and fruit trees. So we've got several earth boxes, if you're familiar with that design. We've got some raised bed plots as well. And then we've got several fruit trees that are appropriate for homeowners. We have a rose garden demonstration, which I say is very successful, but as many of you might know, especially those in Central and South Florida, roses are a challenging flower to grow. And so we've tried our best to create these FFL demonstrations for roses in that garden. We have decorated the grounds in these native garden plots where we're showcasing folks or demonstrating to folks the benefits and utility of native plants. We have a cool bromeliad grotto. So if you like bromeliads or you have a smaller space and you want to have these kind of low maintenance plants, the bromeliads are a way to kind of build up vertically, but also kind of spread around without having to, engage too much. One note though, they're sharp. So if you've ever messed with bromeliads, they've got these little spines and you want to keep that in mind. We also have a really big pollinator garden that's currently undergoing a rebuild where we're focusing on bees, butterflies, and maybe hummingbirds if we get them. But really, how can folks in an HOA, for example, adopt a pollinator landscape that still fits the bill for that HOA aesthetic? And then, of course, we have a greenhouse and a propagation space where the master gardeners produce all of our plants for the plant sale, but also a lot of plants for planting in the ground at the demonstration gardens. Now, those 13 areas, that's a big area of coordination. So if you've got a garden of that scale or of that complexity, there's some easy ways that you can coordinate it. And in our gardens, we have a really established system. So each of those garden areas has a specific leader or co-leaders. And these folks help to coordinate the master gardener volunteers in that respective garden. And by coordinate, I mean they help to schedule and conduct the maintenance or the work days. So some gardens operate a work day maybe once a month, others operate weekly. The garden we're going to highlight today, the sundial operates weekly, yes?
Correct.
On Fridays, right?
Yes.
Okay, Friday morning. So each of those gardens operates kind of autonomously within the garden, and they have a specific budget that they have access to that can get them supplies, plant material, or any other needs for that specific garden area. So before I really dive in into the sundial, I just want to say that in the creation of this presentation, I took two liberties. One, I wanted to highlight the special group that the sundial is, right? Part of our title in this presentation was the rare plant collection. Well, the sundial garden works with that rare plant collection. And so I wanted to highlight their work, but I also wanted to detail some of the aspects of what a specific group in a garden can do, right? So not only is the demonstration garden going to be something tangible, right? A reflection of your work and something that people can engage with, but it can also be a place of science, right? It can also be a place of education and skill and utility from a master gardener point of view. So the garden is a sundial. I mean, we didn't just come up with that name just willy-nilly. It quite literally is a sundial. And if you can look at these pictures here, you'll see the sundial right there. It's a pavement. It works, right? If you stand on it, it's fairly accurate for a sundial, but it was intended just to be a sundial, kind of with annual plants or colorful perennials. When I came into the program in 2015, that's exactly what it was. Sundial, some sunflowers, maybe a couple cool season annuals, but that's what its purpose was. Then, I think it was you, Amy, who began the transition into this rare plant focused on native plants specific to residential landscapes or needing conservation, and transitioned this sundial area into its current state, which is the rare plant collection. Now, this garden is also fairly unique in that it crafted its own vision and mission statement. Now, I'm not going to bore you by reading all of this. I just want to give you an example of the dedication that this team has put into the thought, the care, the passion. All of those things are present in the detail of their vision and their mission statement. This is kind of what guided the foundation of the group and what currently guides their efforts. In addition to those, okay, so in addition to the crafting of a vision and mission statement and this detailing, oh, it's part of my light, y'all. I might have to do that. The Sundial team has also offered several classes or talks, right? So not only are they doing the work physically, right? They have also taken that work from the demonstration garden, some of the stuff refined in the demonstration garden, and turned it into classes or lectures or workshops that have been accessible to the public for people who do not come to the extension office. So just quickly, they've done one on native milkweeds. They've done one on the native Florida milk vine, something about the lantana predicament, which I'm sure you all are familiar with, medicinal and indigenous people use of Florida native wildflowers, passion vines, goldenrods. They've kind of covered a really wide spectrum of native plants for the public to make these things less of a, oh, I found this cool milkweed in a book, but it's endangered, to more of a, this is what it looks like, this is where it can be found, here are the habitats that it lives in, and here's how we've been learning how to cultivate this plant. They even have a seed inventory. And this one is online, correct? They have an Excel sheet that they've detailed, one, their inventory, two, when those seeds were purchased, right? Because, seeds have a life, the species and the status of the species in those collections. So whether it has been grown out or needs growing out, how it was successful, all of those things are archived, right? So again, this is that above and beyond level for this team. And that's what I really wanted to take this time and just highlight is not that the other teams aren't doing this in the garden, but the Sundial team has really created this elaborate system to document and archive their successes and also share their passions with the public, specifically on these native plants here. And this part kind of makes me sad, but also happy too, right? Let me put that more correctly. The Sundial team and other master gardeners have created a space within that area as a memorial or a reflection. And so this is an area where people can sit and think on and be with the master gardeners who were part of our program who are sadly no longer with us. And our most recent was Miss Deborah Black. And she has you can see in that picture a lovely, is it cypress, that wood?
Yes, cypress.
Cypress bench that was crafted for her. And then the pavers that y'all drove all the way to the Keys to get. I mean, really a labor of love. So this is just another aspect of the tight-knit camaraderie that's on the Sundial team, not just for their plants, but for the people who participate. So as I transition into our Master Gardener speaker, because no one wants to hear me speak for all this time, I want to shine some light on some of the projects that this particular demonstration garden has done. Again, let me just reinforce. Demonstration gardens can be all of those things we discussed, but they can also do this. And so I wanted Amy to really speak on these things while she's here. So I'm just going to transition this way. All right, Miss Amy, you're up.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mack, and for the Master Gardener program for giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about the Sundial Garden. To understand what this group has accomplished is to know from where we began. Basically, we had a round concrete circle. And that took up 2/3 to 60% or more of the garden area. The rest was vacant most of the year, except for during the annual county fair, because I did it the last time it occurred. I went out and got flowers from the big box store, and they were put in there for a 2-week display period. And the rest of the year, that area wasn't really being utilized to its full potential. So some of us got together, Arwen and I, working the the wetlands one day, and thought, well, this is the sundial. We could use this to really highlight Florida native wildflowers, which we don't have really a garden of at the time. So during this time to now, we've had multiple changes in hardscape. We've added this new area. So we've been continually evolving, not to mention the fact that wildflowers don't do what they're told. They go where they want to. So it requires a lot of energy and time to actually work that garden. When we started, we didn't know anything about wildflowers. We didn't have a team, but we didn't let either one of those stop us. It's important to just start from where you are, and the others will come. If you provide master gardeners with a place to learn about plants that they love, the ability to have input into a garden, the chance to use their eye for beauty to design, they'll come and they'll stay. We've had people come loyally every Friday for years. We have over 5,000 work hours in that garden alone, just from a handful of master gardeners loving this garden and really having fun with it and each other. As Mack alluded to, we started with a mission statement, and that was really important because it's kept us on focus all these years. What is it we're trying to accomplish? And what are our parameters? If we don't meet those parameters, we don't include that plant. If that plant no longer meets our criteria, it comes out. Doesn't mean the plant isn't a good plant. It just means it's not according to the criteria that we initially established. What we look at, our criteria involves what seed or plant material or cutting can we get that's available. That's a biggie, especially when it comes to rare plants. It's rare because most of it isn't available. So you've got to be continually looking for these plants to see if you can find legal sources for them, if you can find Florida ecotype seeds, and you go back year after year, month after month, and look to see if something new has become available. We want it, first of all, to be native. It needs to be rare, hopefully, and preferably endemic, and endemic to a small number of counties. And we hope that it would be endemic to Manatee County. We're looking at color. We don't want all yellow flowers. We want the largest size blooms that we can obtain out of the rare plants that might be available to us, or the rare seeds. We're looking at actual design elements, size of the plant, what the shape is it evergreen? What season does it bloom? We can't have all spring bloomers, can't have all fall bloomers. Is it perennial, annual, biennial? We emphasize perennial so that we don't have to, year after year, like Disneyland or Disney World, continue to rotate annuals. We want it to be native and perennial. So when we started, first two plants we looked at were a specimen tree, and we settled on the acacia, the pineland acacia. And all the acacias that we have now that we've sold or we have in our gardens currently are descended from one tree. We had one master gardener spend 18 months cracking the code to how to propagate that plant, and she was successful. Her name is Ann Roy. So we've done that with many plants, and I think that's one of the things that keeps master gardeners coming back. There's a challenge there, but there's also the possibility of success. But even with a failure, we've learned from our failures, and we continue all to grow. Now, the other thing we did, besides looking for a specimen tree, is to look for some native wildflower bloomers, and we settled on the coreopsis. Why? Because the coreopsis, number one, it's a state flower. Um, it's a spring bloomer. We started this in August and in the fall, actually doing educational courses for ourselves and for others. But we wanted something for that upcoming 2020 spring. Unfortunately, as we got that going and we started putting in coreopsis, we had one bloom season and then we had COVID. So we were not able to come to work on our gardens, work in our greenhouse for 6 to 8 months. Then started up again and had several changes of hardscape. But as far as the coreopsis goes, there are 12 native coreopsises in the state, and we were able to locate 6 different species that we planted. The main one that we still plant now is evergreen, and it's the lance leaf. Why we like it is we don't weed in our garden, we harvest. So wherever the wildflowers go, if they're not where we want them to be, they're not a weed. They're money that we're going to make because we're going to harvest that. We're going to pot them up and we're going to put them in our sales and we'll make money off them. So that's what we do. And our lance leaf is one of the main ones that we do that with as far as the coreopsis are concerned. We did the lance leaf, the Leavenworth, the Florida, golden mane, large flower, and golden. Those 6 out of the 12. One thing that we learned though, the tools that we use, one of the major tools is an app called Florida Wildflowers. It's free, there's no advertisements, and we use it every time we do the sundial. The one main downfall with it is it may identify a plant as native. And then when you go to a link from that app into the Florida Plant Atlas, you find that it's not native at all. So with 2 of our coreopsis, the golden and the golden mane, they were not native. Didn't mean we threw them away, we sold them and we removed them from our garden. We are, though, going back to and revisiting the ones we were less successful with, which was the Florida. And our problem with that one is we had it planted in the wrong place. It needs to be in wetter ground. So we're going to put it in the wetlands. And then we'll acquire more seed for the large flowered and we'll put that back in. We're looking for seed for the Georgia tick which is the nudata, and the coastal plain, the gladiata, which we've not yet found the seed for, but it's endemic to Manatee County. So of course we'd like to plant that. Beyond those, we're actually looking at two of the families, which would be the asters and the phlox, and researching in those to add to our group of coreopsis that we have. One of the things in the plants when we first started, we focused on passion vines and milkweeds, and I'll talk about them in just a moment. But in working on the milkweeds, we stumbled across seed for the Matalea floridana. It is a vine. It's state endangered. It can't legally be sold or harvested in certain conditions. Luckily, we obtained legal seeds. We were able to propagate it and grow it. We don't have it at the moment. We'd like to acquire more. But one of the things about vines and why we emphasize them is because not everybody has property large enough to grow a wildflower garden in. But most people have a pot they could put on their balcony or, someplace in a much smaller area. And vines are conducive to being used in pots, on trellises, or even as a ground cover to be able to utilize smaller spaces. Thank you. So after the Matalea, one of the things we focused on was the goldenrods. We already had the pine barren in our wetlands, which is the top left picture. And we were given plants from the seaside, which is the most commercially available, but it was nowhere else in our garden. So we've utilized that. But both of those are very, very big in terms of tallness, and we have a very small area. So one of the first things we focused on was looking for goldenrods, because we didn't just want spring bloomers, we wanted fall. We wanted something evergreen and smaller and not quite as tall. So we honed in on the wand goldenrod. We obtained the first wand before it was ever commercially available from Craig Hugel, and we've been able to propagate it. It's evergreen, and it's a wonderful addition to our garden or to most native gardens. We've since then focused on the Chapman's, which is also lower and smaller, but it's pretty bushy. So we've moved it and we're starting over again with that one. And we had the anise scented, and we'll be trying that again. One thing that we've learned from all of them, even the Chapman's, which is smaller, is that at the early part of summer, they need to be cut down actually pretty low. Otherwise, you're going to have what is in the top left-hand picture, which is many of your stalks flopping over, or the plant itself getting too large for the space. So that's the one thing that we have learned about the goldenrods. We've really actually focused mostly on the passion vines and the milkweeds. Our goal with the passion vines was to be able to collect legally every single passion vine native to the state, and there are 6 of them. So we did acquire all 6. 3 of them are endangered. We've been able to propagate from all of them. The one that we had the least our opportunity to do so, we started the last, and we'd like to obtain it again, would be the Sex Flora, which is the goat's foot, and it's really pretty hard to locate. But what we found is, because of the interest of the most communities in butterflies, there is quite a public demand for plants that will attract all different types of butterflies and pollinators. And passion vines fall squarely into that. So we still grow and sell at all of our sales. We sell the maypop, the corky stem, and the pine land, which is endangered. We have ability to once again have the yellow and the white flowered, and like I said, the goat's foot is less likely that we'll be able to get one of those again. But we will sell out every time if people know it's available. And as a vine, as I said before, they can be used in small areas. They can trail off of pots. They can be used in vertical gardening and used up on trellises. So we continue to work with our passion vines. We spent a lot of time with our milkweeds. There are 21 native ones in the state. Most of them are not available commercially. We focused in on the ones that we could obtain, and we did end up growing 9 out of the 21. Out of those, the first one that we propagated and concentrated on was the pine land, which is the humistrata. The reason why is because that particular passion vine is the most important, milkweed, the most important milkweed to the survival of the monarch butterfly. When we started, it was very difficult to find those seeds. We were generously given 5 of her seeds by one of our master gardeners who has worked in the rose garden, Karen Eckert, and she gave us 5 of her seeds, and we started from those, and we were able to grow 3. And through COVID, until we had some problems with watering in our greenhouses, we found, after watching a lot of the YouTube videos that were put out there by St. Mark's Native Wildlife Refuge, and they're the regional center for the monarch butterfly. They had their own program at the time, doing what we were doing, but on a much larger scale. They used their own soil. We tried to make our own mixture of soil as well. We were successful up to the point that they were successful, and both of us found the same problem. You can get that plant to grow, but after a certain point, even if you put it in a tree seedling pot for depth for the root system to grow, it you reach an impasse because it doesn't take well to being transplanted. So their program rather dissolved along those grounds as did ours. And we intend to go back and revisit that and start up again in the fall with repropagating all of those native milkweeds that we had started before, which were the 9, and they were the pine woods, the red ring, world, swamp, butterfly, few flower, aquatic, green antelope horn in the green. We still currently grow and sell the swamp butterfly and the aquatic. So we'll be able to go back and do those again because we know we can be successful with those. Next would be the liatris. Now, we've propagated 5 of these, and actually out of the 5, 3 we acquired from the local native nursery because they were not planted anywhere in our gardens. But 2 of them, the elegance and the savannah, which actually are rare and endemic, we obtained the seed and we've grown those from seed, and we've been very successful with those, particularly the pine scale, which is really endemic up to the Panhandle, but we've been successful down here with that. Since then, we've acquired seed for Chapman's and the Gulsons, Liatris, which is state endangered. We're still working on those to learn to propagate those. The Chapmans we really want to learn because it's shorter. It will do well, we hope, in smaller area gardens. And it's found and vouchered in Manatee County. So we're trying to increase the numbers for those plants as well as grow the 2 that we have the seed for so that we can continue to have a gorgeous fall display of Liatris in our garden. Our most recent project that we're working on would be the Torreya taxifolia, which we just started this May. And this is not a plant that is normally in our area. It's one of the world's rarest trees. It's endemic to only a 2-county area in the Panhandle of Florida on one side of the Apalachicola River in the ravines. And it also is found a mile into one county in Georgia. So you might ask, why us? Why are we growing one of the world's rarest trees? Well, in its native range, it has a disease. And here we're hoping to be able to avoid exposure to that disease. We were brought in on this because of Richard Larson, who is head of forestry for the division of the Myakka River Division, which covers a multi-county area. And he obtained legally one of the plants and wanted to see if it could be propagated. And through the years, we'd like to think we've gained a certain reputation that we'll experiment, we'll come back from failures and try again, that we have the people that are interested that will commit the time, we have the facilities, and we will actually do the scientific work to keep records so that we can help people like Richard in trying to save this endangered plant. So besides these, I really didn't get into, but we have from 40 to 60 individual species that we have found along the way that we have been successful by and large in propagating, and then we have been putting them into our garden. What we did was we took that concept from the sundial, and the wetlands is right next door. They're bookends of each other. One's a dry prairie type environment. The other is obviously a wetlands. But to provide more interest to the wetlands, we we kept the backbones of that garden because it was professionally designed, but we've added native wetland wildflowers to that garden to engage the public with these blooming flowers so that they will actually notice that garden more. So that gives us two gardens now. When we locate these plants, if we're successful in propagating them, we go ahead and we put them in those gardens so that they are there visually for people to see what it would look like if they would have that themselves in the garden. So with that, Mac, I'd like to turn it back over to you.
Yeah. Switch it this way. So yeah, as y'all can see, I mean, I'm really thrilled that you were here, Amy, because you were able to really spell out some of these projects and this labor of love that your team has done. And like I keep saying, and like I spoke to you privately, I am just thoroughly inspired and impressed by y'all's efforts. I mean, this is a really good example, both of what demonstration gardens can do, but also what a really tight-knit team of Master Gardener volunteers can do. So as we get closer to the conclusion of this presentation, I just want to show this little, let's see if it'll play, just to acknowledge, it's not one person, right? There's a key person, that lady that's right here, Miss Amy Boohaker. But there's also these folks who have participated in this garden, and I just want to run this video real fast if it works so that y'all can see kind of the smiling faces and the transformation that occurred in the sundial area. Okay, so I hope y'all appreciated that video. I thought it was cute, but I'm also a Master Gardener coordinator and I love my Master Gardener. So what can I say?
We can't
But
get
I hope,
enough, can we? We can't get enough.
right. I hope you all enjoyed that presentation, and I hope that you take with it two things. One, that these demonstration gardens serve many purposes, right? Not only are they engaging, tangible experiences for the public, but for you as volunteers and for those other coordinators joining for your volunteers, it's a space for science to happen. It's a space for passion to exist, and it's a place for those connections to really form. And with that, any questions?
There's a lot of questions.
Oh gosh.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw them at you and if try to be succinct in your responses. The first one is from Tina wondering about the funding.
Okay. So our funding is for the Master Gardener program is all done through their plant sale income.
Okay.
Okay, so we have an annual plant sale. They generate X amount of dollars. That money goes to their program development to buy supplies.
And
how have hurricanes impacted this garden?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
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 This past hurricane or the last one that came through was one of our more devastating. So we had those three storms back to back, and then Milton was our final one. And for the most part, the gardens were around, the greenhouse was intact, but a lot of our hardscape and plant material was really destroyed in that aspect. The fortunate part for sundial is most of your material is wildflowers, so they're low to the ground.
Yeah.
So they're usually pretty good during a storm.
And I looked in my document, I couldn't find it. How many acres are you here? I'd have to say less than two, right?
Oh yeah, for this garden, I'd say close to half acre,
Yeah.
maybe somewhere in that ballpark. It's a large garden, but it's not as big as some of the other ones in the state.
Right. Bill wants to know, does the sundial adjust for daylight savings time?
Mechanically, we do. We tell
Okay,
people that if it's daylight savings time, they got to add or subtract an hour, whichever way it goes. But it does work with
it
that
does.
caveat.
It does definitely work. Okay, we didn't see a picture of the acacia tree, but someone is interested. I think they should go to Palmetto and go see it themselves. So,
I agree. Come
okay.
down and visit us. We'll take you on a tour.
Okay. And then people are love the idea of harvesting instead of weeding, which is right.
Mhm.
Um, Amy, do you remember the second goldenrod that you talked about?
The sempervirens, which is the seaside one,
Yeah.
and it's so big, we have one kind of buried in a corner. And we're going to experiment with cutting that one down to see if we can make it a little bit more usable for the majority of gardens. So we're focusing more on the Chapmans and the wand, and we'll try again on the anise Senate and see how big that one gets.
No, some of these plants are not available commercially. So how do you establish these relationships to get the seeds and is it Native Plant Society or restoration projects? How are you doing this?
Any way that I can legally do it.
Okay.
Actually, we acquired some plants through the plant sale through Craig Hugel, which he doesn't have those anymore. Others I get online through various sources from the landowner themselves. Um, that having been said, you can buy something and it can be marked as a certain plant. You don't know till you grow it, if it even grows, that you've got what they said it was on the package, and that can happen. If you have a homeowner, a home gardener, or a person out somewhere out in the country, they think it's a certain species and it's not. We've had that happen as well. Or it never propagates. It's just the seed is not viable.
And are you
So
using Craig and Mark Frank and the resources to do those final IDs for you?
we try to on them if we get them to the point where we really need to know. Sometimes there's no point because it fails. Um, Other times we're able through our own resources because we use that Florida Wildflower app and the Atlas, and we'll actually go and we'll compare pictures on the internet to look to see, and then find out in the descriptions as to what the distinctions between the various plants are. Because even if they identify them, we need to know them ourselves. We need to be able to identify them, especially when they come up from out of the ground. It's hard to tell a wand goldenrod sometimes from a liatris coming up or a lance leaf. So we're still learning, and we have a long way to go, but that's what's fun about it. We're never going to end, uh, and learning is always going to be an opportunity to learn more.
Right. Is speaking of liatris, is a liatris a native to Southwest Florida? Someone's asking from Collier.
The liatris, the savanna is, and they're found throughout the state.
Yeah.
What we do in selecting them is we try to find ones that are local to us if we can. But you'll find on the plant atlas, the Florida Plant Atlas, if it's a plant that's up in the Panhandle, which many of the coreopsises are, if it's also down in Dade County, we're going to try it.
Sure.
Or if it's down in Lee County, below or near us, it could be broken up in the state in two opposite regions of the state. So we'll go ahead and try.
Okay, that sounds great. Are you hand watering? Because someone asked about watering restrictions, how you deal with that.
Yes, we hand water, and after we work every Friday, we'll put the sprinkler on, but we come back during the week and have to hand water.
Yeah. Okay. Someone asked which liatris was the dwarf variety, the dwarf species.
The one that we have not yet grown, but are hoping to, that we hope will be smaller, is Chapman's.
Okay.
So the jury is out on that one, but that's what we're looking for, to see if we can find something smaller.
Okay. Good, good, good. And do you all have a composting demonstration in your area in the larger garden, not the sundial garden?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, there's a composting demo, yeah.
Good. And I think we're getting to the point where, well, I want to give you a compliment. Janice, who is active at the Volusia County Demonstration Garden, she has her own specialty. I will tell you, she grows perennial vegetables, which are pretty fascinating there. But she just said, thank you for this benchmark presentation. It takes a great leader and great volunteers to achieve these kind of results. And I just want to give huge kudos to you. I knew I had come upon something so special when I saw the sundial garden, and I realized that the work that you're doing is very important there for the conservation and education with these native plants. So thank you. And I know it's a team, and I
It's
know
a
we're
team.
humble, but thank you, Amy, and your
Thank you.
team, and Mac and your
Thank you.
team. And so folks are wondering, when is the garden open for visitors?
Okay, so the gardens are open really anytime during the week. Now, keep in mind, we are county servants, and so if I don't have volunteers present, you'll have to wait on little old me to come out of my office. But technically speaking, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 p.m., you can request a garden tour.
And the high times to see it would be probably March, April, and then in September,
Hmm.
October is when we have more of the bloom seasons. We're actually working on obtaining more species that will enlarge us in through summer and also winter. But it's a labor of love in progress.
Hmm.
Okay. And do you all, were we to come to a tour, would you have a list of the plants, or is there a way to get a list of the plants that are there?
We do. We have a combined list of wetlands and sundial.
Okay.
Right at the current time, it needs to be updated. There are times we go through so many plants and locate so many plants because when you find them, you have to grab them. Otherwise, they may never come up again. So it takes that much more time to make the list and keep the list updated. And there are times when there's only all you can do is focus on getting the garden growing and presentable, let alone doing all the administrative stuff.
Right.
So Yeah.
Well, you can give a pretty good version. But if for folks who are wanting a tour or more information, Mac's email is on the last slide here. So I do want to direct you to that as if you need a list or something like that. And then folks are asking about when you have your plant sales.
Like the time that we have our plant
Yeah,
sale.
is it May or is it
So yeah,
September?
we have recently undergone a little bit of change. In the past, we offered a spring and fall. So now we're only doing one plant sale a year, and that fell into April this year. So there might be a little refinement on what that date is, but it's looking like sometime in April once a year.
Okay. And who takes care of the greenhouse plants? The
Well, that's kind
team?
of a team effort, both from the Sundial team, but we also have a propagation greenhouse team. And so there's a little bit of overlap with care within the greenhouse itself.
And there's also orchids and succulents in there as well. So we all pitch in.
Okay. Now here's a real question about plants. Of the 9 native milkweeds you tried, which one have you had the most success with? She lives in Sarasota.
Um, one of the best ones for gardening, for gardeners, is the swamp. It's actually, uh, it will grow in a larger variety, a wider variety of different conditions than most. And it's got bigger leaves, all the more to be eaten by the caterpillars. So it, you want to hide it in the back because if you're successful, you're going to see the cycle of life because it's going to get eaten the majority of the time. So I'd say the swamp for this area. We're trying to grow the tuberosa, but it's difficult here.
So
We have,
slow.
yeah, it's very slow. We spent 3 years establishing our
Mhm.
butterfly area, and just in time to have the walkway go through it. And so we've had to restart over again.
Oh,
But the aquatic and the world also are successful here. They
okay.
just they don't have as much presence, and there's not the leaves for caterpillars to eat that there is with the swamp.
So with the milkweed and the passion vine and your other natives, I mean, when you get a group of caterpillars on, are you trying to protect the plant or provide for the caterpillars, and how do you do it?
Well, for our tour last week, I was going to show our native pipevine that we grew from seed. And I went back 2 days later to put it on the table, and there was nothing on it. There was no leaves. So there's not much we can do other than if it's in the greenhouse. And even
Okay.
then, we have sometimes butterflies coming in. So it's nature kind of takes its course, and we
Mhm.
do the best we can.
Yeah, I hear you. Did you say something about an anise senate?
A niece scented goldenrod. And actually,
Oh,
I obtained the plant, and I don't know if they still have it, from Green Isle up in, is it Groveland?
it's
They
Groveland.
had it at one point.
Okay,
I've not seen it here locally.
fantastic. So, uh, let's see, one more. Is the demonstration garden centrally located to manatee population? I think Palmetto's pretty central, isn't it?
Yeah, the best way I can describe population center in Manatee County historically was Palmetto Bradenton, but that shift to the southeast and Lakewood Ranch has been tremendous and significant. So I would say its current population center is in southeast Manatee County, where the historic and cultural, if you Manatee County culture, Manatee County culture and political center is still Palmetto Bradenton. So there's a river that separates the two cities, but really it's a 5 minute drive to Bradenton, 5 minute drive back to Palmetto.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Everyone's saying, oh, so someone wants to know what's the exact name of the garden. And so is it the Sundial Garden at the Manat? Oh, it's Betty somebody. I'm sorry. You
The
say it.
bar, yeah. So the whole garden is called the Barbara Davis Educational Gardens. And the sundial is one of those subsets within the main educational demo. So the garden's broken into all those sections, but the whole garden is referred to as the Barbara Davis Educational Gardens.
Right. Very good. Well, if you all have further questions, please reach out to Mac. Please go to Manatee County to see the garden. If you want to request, someone wanted to request a consultation, I think a tour would do a lot for that. Go down to the plant sale. If you have other questions about the greenhouse or how they have designed their volunteer organization for this one garden, please reach out to them. And Mac and Amy and all the Manatee County Master Gardeners, we can't thank you enough. So thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate it.